This is Llosa. He was attacked with a machete and shot 62 times with an air rifle by villagers living along the edge of a national park in Sumatra. They were deliberately trying to blind him so that he would be helpless in the wild and die. He was brought here to the Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program, or SOCP, the world's leading authority on Sumatran orangutan conservation. They couldn't remove all of the air rifle pellets, but treated his wounds, and he went on to father twins who were both released into the wild. Llosa is blind and unable to survive in the wild, but could live for another 30 years or more, which is a long time to spend in a small cage, even if it is for his own safety. Later in Wild Work Sumatra, we'll be showing you a site that SOCP are developing as a haven for orangutans like Llosa. Llosa is the poster boy for Orangutan Haven, an amazing new area that's being constructed by SOCP. SOCP's main hope is to rehabilitate orangutans to the point where they can be reintroduced to the wild. But some, like Llosa, have the kind of health issues and injuries that mean taking them back to the rainforest would be leaving them for dead. Dr. Ian Singleton is the director of SOCP and has lived and worked with orangutans in Sumatra since 2001. Ian's just driven us down to the site of where the islands are going to be, where the orangutans are actually going to be living, and that's amazing progress since I've been here last. So it looks like a lot more islands than...
Well, this is just a small one at the end, at the top of the valley, but because we've already got the dam in place and everything, we're using this one to experiment a bit and test the water retention of the moat and everything. So.
Oh, I can't wait to see them on here.
The Orangutan Haven idea came about because we've got 5 orangutans now at the quarantine centre that we can't release to the wild. So I thought, well, rather than these 5 animals spending the next 40, 50 years in metal cages, wouldn't it be great if we found somewhere where we could build some islands? And we found this beautiful valley, old water trickling through a stream and everything else. And it just so happened it came as a package with 49 hectares of land. So we've got a hell of a lot more than we ever envisaged we would get. But we're well on the way now to creating 9 islands surrounded by water moats, each with its own little house, so the orangutans will be able to live out their days in a much more naturalistic environment.
A big part of Orangutan Haven's vision is to offer people, locals as much as tourists, the opportunity to see orangutans in this environment and understand the impact that everyday decisions have on wildlife.
We want to manage the whole site as a more holistic sort of conservation, sustainable development education centre. So even the facilities, like what we're sitting on now, is built out of bamboo to show people that there are alternative materials out there to build things with and there are alternative techniques. So we want every facility to be an exhibit in itself as far as we can. It's an amazing place. The vision for it is unlimited. Yeah? We're limited only by kind of funding, time and imagination.
The day-to-day work of SOCP is really exciting too. They are the only program in the world creating new ape populations by reintroducing them back to the wild. Working with the Indonesian government, young orangutans that have been illegally taken from their mothers and kept as pets are confiscated and brought here. Their health is checked and the youngest are kept together to learn from each other. Becoming an orangutan who can live safely in the wild is more complicated than it might look. Except for humans, orangutan babies depend on their mothers for longer than any other animal, 8 or 9 years minimum, learning how to forage and how to climb, how to make a nest to be safe from predators, and how to get into a termite nest. Orangutan mothers are so protective that the most common way a baby is taken is by its mother being killed. These babies all have skills they learned from the short time they were in the wild, and so they're kept in groups at SOCP so they can learn from each other. Orangutans are primarily arboreal, which means they spend the majority of their time in the trees. To find food, they need to travel through the forest, moving from tree to tree, and they need to know the branch they want to use is going to hold. They test the strength by always keeping 3 points of contact on the one they're coming from, swaying on the new point of contact to test it. The stakes are pretty high. falling from high up in the forest canopy could be fatal. These young orangutans have come a long way. Soon, in small groups, they'll be reintroduced to the wild, where they'll be carefully monitored to ensure that they're coping with life in the big forest. Auckland Zoo's orangutans have been living in Christchurch for the last couple of years, while we've been building them a new habitat which opens in summer 2020. They're such incredible animals, in a league of their own in terms of intelligence, even among the great apes. That means it takes a long time to build the kind of relationship that makes them feel safe. So throughout their time in Christchurch, we've made sure there's always at least 2 keepers who are familiar faces from Auckland.
Good boy! Look at you!
That intelligence means they need stimulation too, which is something we've considered throughout the whole process of designing and building their new home. In looking after our orangutans, we try to ensure that no 2 days are the same and that they always have lots of different choices in their environment. We've learned to read their behaviour, which isn't easy because they're very complex. They're thoughtful rather than overt, so subtle cues like body language and eye contact are what we're looking for, rather than the kind of noisy chatter that you might get with chimps. Puzzle feeders are a great way of challenging them. They learn to use tools to work them, figuring out that they might need a particular length of stick to get to the food inside. This is the kind of behaviour we see in the wild. Different populations of orangutans even have different cultures around the use of tools, and it's the kind of behaviour that gets passed on through observation, so it's transmitted across generations. In fact, that difference in culture was one of the ways a new species of orangutan was recently discovered. For a long time, we thought there were only 2 species of orangutan, Sumatran and Bornean, on the 2 different islands. But in Sumatra, there's a separate species, the Tapanuli orangutan, isolated from their cousins for more than 10,000 years, and they've developed different characteristics. It was only described in 2017 after being studied for nearly 20 years by scientists from SOCP and elsewhere. The fact that we're still learning about these incredible apes just underlines how sophisticated they are and how important the conservation work in Sumatra is. See you, babies.
Yeah. So I've worked with these 4 orangutans when they were tiny little babies, so they've grown up a lot.
Working with conservation partners like SOCP really gives me hope for the Sumatran orangutan and for the future of wildlife here in Sumatra. An organisation like this is doing such incredible work, and I'm really proud that I've been able to work alongside them and that Auckland Zoo has been able to support them for such a long time. But the best hope for wildlife in Sumatra is for all of us to make small but powerful changes, like buying sustainable palm oil and using only eco-friendly paper. And it's also important that our orangutans have a great life here at the zoo and carry on inspiring everyone to help ensure a future for their cousins in Sumatra. Every time you visit Auckland Zoo, you're supporting our wild work in Sumatra. To date, through zoo visits and donations, our Auckland Zoo Conservation Fund has contributed over $4 million to conservation projects in New Zealand and around the world. To find out more, visit aucklandzoo.co.nz.